back into the plenary. I would like your participation in wishing a happy birthday to Ingrid. So we're all going to sing happy birthday to Ingrid. A 1, a 2, a 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ingrid. Happy birthday to you. Many more. No, I'm not going to sing again. I would like to introduce our first session. It's going to be presented by Bishop Isaiah Beardy and his elder Norman Mead. And you have the handout. You'll be able to follow along. It's called Pitching Our Tent, A New Vision for Northern Manitoba. So sit back and watch and hear, listen. Thank you.
And you're on the main screen.
Yeah, it's good to see. Good to see you that I can see, and those I can't see. I know you're hearing us. It's Norman Mead, Reverend Norman Mead. I'm in Winnipeg. Just got back from Menegatogan, my home community today. I understand in our part of this conference, this evening's presentation, and I will do the introduction. Bishop Isaiah, was there something that you want to lead off with?
Yeah, good evening.
I want to take a moment just to get everybody onto the same page. Larry, we love your hat.
Thank you.
Your hat is awesome, and we're so glad that you're able to join us through Zoom. And what we're going to do is we will turn everything over to you to get started, and we thank you from everybody here over at our gathering at Sacred Circle for your patience, because we realize we're running out, but we ended up with some really good food and really good conversation. So we're now ready for your presentation on pitching our tents. So we'll hand it over to you and to your group. Hi.
Ekose, kinalas kumet na kakino. Ate kaya ka mau chitunano. Ko kinalas kumau kisimantu. Oma kakinoge gon kai semini go ya apastaya. Kagi mamuya ayana mutama ayamehawin. Eko kinalas kumon mina eki wapastaman. Eki walas kuna kanagta mau kiche mege mau anuska gisigat. Kinalas kumau kisimantu. I just want to begin by saying that I thank for the many gifts that our Creator has given us. The ability to gather, whether it's face-to-face or virtual, the gifts that the Creator has given us. I also want to thank our Creator that He has blessed His servant to lead our church, the Indigenous Church, and make a reference to Archbishop, the presiding elder of Sacred Circle. I thank God for that. But anyway, we have a presentation to make. We were told half an hour, so we'll just move on. And I've asked the Reverend Norman Mead, our elder, to begin this conversation. Go ahead, Norman.
Yes, good evening to all of those that can hear me, and some of you I can see. Many of you I would have spoken to before and had met before. As an elder, I want to begin with a short prayer. We thank Creator. We already did in Larry and Bishop Isaiah's message here, opening. We give you thanks for all what you provide us with, and to bring us here to Sacred Circle. In Jesus, you place the gospel in the center of this circle, through which all creation is related. You show us the way to live a generous and compassionate life. Give us your strength to live with respect and commitment as we grow in your spirit. For you are God, now and forever. Amen. In that prayer that we start off with, we see many things that when we put Christ in the middle of our circle, we become very dependent on prayer. We always have as Indigenous people. But we also know that in the center of our circle, or within our circle, not at the center, but within the circle, we see all of our relatives, all of creation. And we see that creation groaning in many, many different ways. We see our people suffering. We see shortages, which we'll talk a little bit about later on tonight in this conversation. We see all these things happening. We see our churches struggling. And yet, our hope was always, that we would take a look at that history that we've came through over the last number of centuries, including residential school. And we came through it and lost many of our children, and we know that. We lost many of our people, and we're still losing them today. And it hurts to see our elders, clergy elders, having to pick up on some of these things that were dropped upon us. I'm one of them. And I just want to acknowledge our two Reverends, Mary Wavy and Janet McIver, who are in Sacred Circle and there with you. I want to acknowledge them because they're two of the ones that we know, are going through a rough time back in their communities. And we all are as we get older. It's always the hope of an elder to try to improve our lives, especially our spiritual lives, for our young children, the unborn child, those little ones, our little grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, so that they don't have to go through what some of the things that we had to endure. These are the things that we hope and pray for. And we know that when tragedy strikes, it doesn't warn you that, we're going to come and take your children from you, and they're going to face a lot of abuse, and there's going to be a lot of things happening after that. We're going to see a lot of things happening in terms of our Indigenous people, men and women. You're never really given a warning. It just happens. And we always want to be prayerful and hopeful that we can change some of these things. And as an elder, I say, how do we do it? How do we do it? How can we go to self-determination and be self-sufficient with nothing? How can we possibly do that? Our hope fades away many times. My hope fades many times because I wonder, how can we, go to be self-determining in what in the work we do in our communities? And yet we're doing it without any kind of resources, shortage of money and so on, shortage of food, and we'll hear about some of these things later. I think about these things, my friends. I think about these things. I think about where do we go from here? Our vision was always as an Indigenous Christian churches in Manitoba, in northern Manitoba, but across Canada, that we have to do something. We have to do something, and we have to do it now. We can't wait and wait and wait and die waiting. We can't do that. We have to do something now. We have to find better ways of serving our local communities. This is what we hope for, that God will hear our cries from the bush, cries from the desert, if you will, that God will hear our cries of our women, of our children, of our old men and our young men, because they're dying in huge numbers. But it's also, the hope that our churches could step up and say, you know what, we are there with you. We'll walk with you. We hear you. Welcome to a Sacred Circle. We call upon each and every one of you in Sacred Circle, this 11th one. We call upon us, all of us, to walk this road together. We ask that you walk with us and help us as much as you can, in whatever way you can, to hear our cries. Because unless we work together, we are not going to be able to do and continue to do what we would like to see done for our people. Our people are struggling, my friends, really badly. In this vision that we have, pitching our tent, is one vision that came out of our elders' meetings over the last number of years. Pitching our tent, what does that really mean? It means that we're going to have to go and pitch our tent and go back to some of our cultural ways of life. We're going to have to live according to the spirit of the land, the spirit of the water, and the spirit of the air that we breathe. We're going to have to go back to that to the land. I don't see any other way. We have churches that are falling down in our communities, and some of our communities don't even have churches. And we're depending on churches as we know it. I'm talking churches that we have grown up with. Like, I am 78 years old. And I can remember growing up back in Manigatongan, in the church community. It was different back then than it is today. You don't see young people coming to church today because they don't know why they're coming. They don't know why they should come to church. And yet we keep serving in the best way we can. So when we call upon you know, when we look to pitching our tent, that vision that we have, you know, we're not saying that we want to cut ties completely with the Anglican Church of Canada. We don't say that we want to cut ties completely. What we're saying is that we have to figure out ways or determine our way that we have to go to make our people stronger. If self-determination is going to work in northern Manitoba or right across Turtle Island, especially in the north, we're going to have to do it, you know, through new forms of worship, new forms of praying and singing songs that reflect our culture, cultures that we grew up with. You know, this is what we're going to have to do. I just want to say that, you know, as we go through the next few days of meetings, I ask you, I plead with Sacred Circle, for those of you that are at the meeting and those of you that will participate in the way we're doing tonight online by technical means, you know, that you hear our cry. Our mission will be that we will see a new way of clergy working with their people, that we'll see a new way in the next 5 years, in the next 3 years, that we will see these things happening. And so I say, I want to offer a blessing on each and every one of us here that are hearing my prayer and that are in Sacred Assembly, Sacred Circle there in Aurelia. I want to say, you know, a blessing upon you. And as an elder, as a pastor, as a priest, as a minister, I'm not going to quit tomorrow. I'm not going to quit next year. I'm going to keep doing this until I can't do it no more. Because I know that if we work together, we can move things along in a good way. But we have to look together for self-sufficiency, and self-determination will come out of that. Miigwech, thank you. Marcy. Amen.
What about it? Share screen.
Thank you very much, Norman. Thank you very much. Eggleston. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to, I just want to say that there'll be 2 documents that will be given to Sacred Circle. One is pitching our tent. It's a narrative. And I just want to go very briefly on the mandate that the elders and the people have given us. And there are 4 points. One is to provide effective and consistent spiritual leadership and services. So we're talking about leaders and services. And then strengthen and restore the foundation of First Peoples' traditional values and spiritual principles. And that's what our Elder Norman emphasized. And then promote and provide wellness programs. A lot of our people are struggling with the wellness, mental wellness. So we've got to provide healing ministry. And Indigenous bishops and clergy, we have to try to work on our languages, restore our languages so we could provide our ceremonies, our services in our languages. And then the last one is I want to say establish a First Peoples Church governance with the ultimate goal of being self-determining. And then Joseph and Alan will share of how we could possibly be self-reliant. And I want to hand it over to them to share with you the other part of this presentation. So I hope you get a copy of Pitching Our Tent. I did email it to be circulated, so I hope you have a copy of that. Go ahead, Alan and Joe.
Okay. Can you guys see this screen? The Pitching Our Tent logo? I believe we're sharing it.
Yes.
Okay. So Pitching Our Tent is a new vision to work together with Sacred Circle to address the national poverty, food insecurity, and housing statistics that are now in a major crisis we're calling a state of emergency. So Pitching Our Tent has partnered with Great Sky Sovereign Trust to help solve some of these issues in 5 key areas. Just a little bit about Great Sky Sovereign Trust. This is actually named in honor of Chief William Kitchikizik, translation Great Sky, who signed over 85 million acres in 1908. And we've recently discovered some fraud related to that may help repatriate and bring wealth back to the community. But what we're here to talk about today is understanding the national crisis and the statistics regarding poverty, food, and homelessness. Growing poverty rates among Indigenous populations in Canada, where in 2016, 32% of us were living in poverty. In 2020, just 5 years later, we're up to 44%. And if we don't start taking action now and start working together, in the next 5 years, by 2025, we're on track for 56% national poverty rates for Indigenous people. This is a national crisis. It's an emergency. The alarming levels at 44% in 2020 have 50% food insecurity on a monthly basis. And it's because of the growing inflation, the living costs, and homelessness, overcrowding, and shortage of over 200,000 quality housing units is needed in the Indigenous market today, and there's 2 million units short in all of Canada. One of the things homelessness does is it creates families that are in need. There's really 200,000 families that do not have homes. And if we think about food, Asia already has 120 million people without enough food before the global supply issues in the pandemic. So this is an urgent call to action by Pitching Our Tent and Great Sky to support each other and help us make these impact investments into these 5 areas for the greatest impact, we believe. Now, the 5 key areas that we're looking at, real solutions, are related to food security and land development. We've made an offer to purchase on an $85 million Eddystone Ranch. It has 72,000 acres of land, 30,000 acres of timber, and 2,500 head of cattle, and can basically grow all of the crops that we would need to feed ourselves. I was recently up in Split Lake. A little pack of hamburger was $81. Our price per pound is less than $3. So somebody's earning 27 times that at the store level. So we'd like to control right from the farm to the table costs. In terms of housing, factory housing and innovation is needed. There's a new $4 billion federal housing accelerator attempting to try fill these 200,000 units. So we're trying to do this at a factory scale to meet the needs of the people into the future. Like, we need multi-generational homes where our grandparents can live with us, the parents and the children. The cookie cutter approach we have right now is not working. In terms of any nation, energy and fuels is important. We've gone out and secured over 200 million liters of fuel at some of the biggest volume discounts available. We believe we could save each band, each community, at least 5 cents per liter below rack, which most communities don't get. And at that level, we're talking with that kind of money, it adds millions of dollars to the local community. And it leads us into procurement. This is the pricing, the national pricing, where the price of beef is 27 times what it actually costs. We'd like to go direct to consumer, go direct from our farm, direct to the consumer, and do this across many different procurement items. And lastly, connectivity is important. We're partnering with Starlink and Boxable on housing to add connectivity to all the homes that we sell in the north that would allow a health app to be brought, so that we have, for 85% of most hospital visits, they could be done immediately in the home. And for cash flow, if we're going to be doing these things, we're talking about maybe a group casino opportunity. Now, a little bit of details. Food security, this is the Eddystone Ranch and some of the details of the cattle and everything else. But food security is an issue no one can ignore. The 120 million people in Asia don't have enough proteins. 50% of the indigenous populations are suffering monthly from food insecurity. We believe we have a solution at Eddystone. and Great Sky working with Sacred Circle. Boxable, we're looking for affordable quality housing. We believe it's a fundamental building block to physical and mental health for communities, provides economic security. And so we have a new 2023 $4 billion housing innovation fund that was just announced in March of 2023. Great Sky and Pitching Our Tent have applied for $200 million to basically help fund and build a new major factory, actually 2 major factories here to help reduce costs. We're also looking at innovative housing materials, getting away from stick build, because hempcrete's available, there's geofoam, there's new various options with high fire ratings, better than the Canadian standard, easy customizable for multifamily solutions. And we really want to bring these to the northern communities. And really, energy and fuel is important. As we know, hydro fuels are needed in the north. And when we combine the strengths of our people with volume, we're able to save up to 5 cents a liter under the current rack prices for direct price savings for our consumers, which are our customers, us. And procurement, national pricing, this is really taking a look at, why does direct to consumer pricing matter? Well, more money stays at the local level. When all the middlemen are removed, look at caskets, for example. We can buy caskets at Costco today for $1,500. Those same ones retail for $7,500. And so we'd like to save that $6,000 that can stay in the communities by just buying better with national pricing. And finally, integrating connectivity with blockchain technology, the procurement network. We can offer a comprehensive platform to connect communities, and we believe we can bring the high-speed gaming with Boxable and the partnership with Skylink. And we're creating a Boxable Northern unit called Pitching Our Tent in honor, where every sale will generate returns back to Pitching Our Tent. And so that's our presentation. We wanted to thank you from Great Sky Sovereign Trust, which is a Section 125 tax-exempt instrument of Indigenous people. And we're excited with the opportunity to work with the people at Sacred Circle, because we truly believe we're stronger together. It's truly a new vision for a better future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sacred Circle, Archbishop, presiding elder. Thank you very much for that, helping to bring some thought and self-reliant. We're looking at being self-reliant, self-determining, as we have always been under our own self-governance. So that's our presentation. I don't know how long it took. But anyway, thank you. Back to you.
From all of us at Sacred Circle, we thank you for your presentation. Indeed, it's always one of those moments when we start to realize that there's our common efforts of trying to uplift our people, and especially the situations that many of our communities are in. And we see that, and at the same time, to be able to recognize that we need to be able to think outside the box, and at the same time, recognizing that we're in this together. So I want to, from all of us here at Sacred Circle, thank all of you for your presentation. Bishop, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and I'm hoping that you are well on your healing journey and that you are doing well, and we've got you in prayer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And actually from all of us. So God bless. I so like it when technology works sometimes. You had your own cameo. That's awesome. I'm going to now invite our dear brother, the Reverend Dr. Ray Aldred, who is from close to my own home community, dear brother of mine, and who is with the VST, and it is something that we talked about before, how important it is for Indigenous ministries to have things in Indigenous context and Indigenous presentation. So I'm going to invite Ray, my dear brother, come on up and speak as only you can, and God bless you.
All right, thank you.
I thank you for the opportunity to speak for a few minutes. Sheila Cook is handing out a brochure to tell you about the program at the Vancouver School of Theology Indigenous Studies program. I just want to say thank you again, Bishop, and all the other bishops that are here, and esteemed elders. I'm thankful for the opportunity over the years to listen, and I'm honored to be here. So the Vancouver School of Theology Indigenous Studies program started about 1985. Don Monkman designed that logo for me, and he's from Fisher River, same place as Stan McKay. I'm from northern Alberta. My mother was born on the banks of the Lesser Slave Lake. It's part of Treaty 8, Swan River Band. That's where she was born. And the logo is, of course, you probably recognize, it's the hands of Christ. Indigenous Studies program is along the bottom, and then above that is the Vancouver School of Theology. Don told me it's because most educational institutions, most institutions in Canada don't understand that they're built upon a foundation of the First Nations people, because the land is our relatives. The land is our relatives. So everything that exists in Canada is built upon the strength of our people and upon the land where the Creator's placed us. And so that was what we wanted to signify with that logo. I try to bring together three things in Indigenous, with Indigenous identity, theological education, and community. Those three things are braided together. I think the physics is, if you take the strength of one string or one strand and you break it, you put two together, it's doubled. But if you put three together, it multiplies. I think the math is 12 times stronger with three braided together. I think that's why the proverb says, a cord of three strands is not easily broken. So that's the physics behind it. We were trying to bring together Indigenous identity, theological education, and community. So we started a program that aimed to make sure that students maintain their relationship in their communities, because we recognize that when people left their community to go to school for 4 years to be trained as a minister, they didn't come back. So it was important that people remain in their community. And it was important because many times those people were already the people who were doing ministry in their community. And the community would suffer greatly if they were removed. So this program, the genius of it was to be done by extension. And the time we would come together would be for summer school every year. And I think Sheila was handing out some other pamphlets about summer school, that was the resident program. The whole program started because in those days, in 1984, for someone to be ordained and recognized as ordained in the whole denomination, they had to have a Master of Divinity degree. In fact, I think still in the United Church of Canada, for example, to be fully ordained, you have to have a Master of Divinity degree. So the Vancouver School of Theology, responding to the call of Indigenous people who were in ministry, primarily in the Anglican Church, the United Church, the Presbyterian Church, developed a Master of Divinity that could be earned in an Indigenous way. So we developed things that were Indigenous friendly. For example, we made oral examination an option in all of our courses, and still is, because orality, or being able to speak your thoughts as a way to express what you've learned, was more helpful than learning how to write on a computer, although writing on a computer is helpful. When I started, my wife used to type my papers out for me on a typewriter. Then I got a computer that has spell check. So we were trying to hold together. I heard Andrew Wesley say this at Thornlow University. We were doing a consultation on Indigenous education. And he said, you know, over the years, all these years, we're trying to hold together Indigenous spirituality or identity and Christian faith. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to tell these two stories together until they can come together. We're still on this journey, he said, and I think we still are. We've been trying to create a space where that can happen. The goal of education is to draw forth what is within. The machinery of Indigenous education may simply replicate European systems. And that's what's happened in the past. We're not trying to replicate everything that the non-Indigenous world does. We're trying to teach theological education in an Indigenous way to draw forth what is within. To do that, we want to affirm Indigenous goals and values. As I said in the beginning, there were two influential papers in 1969. Well, one was a book that was referenced earlier in a video. 1969, a United Church minister, Hendry, was commissioned to study the work that the Anglican Church had done among the Indigenous people in Canada. And that resulted in a book called Beyond Traplines. And in essence, he said, the Anglican Church needs to stop treating Indigenous people like their children. And that started something. At the same year, at a synod of the Episcopal Church in the United States of America, Vine Deloria Jr. wrote a paper called More Real Involvement. And he called for Indigenous people to have more real involvement in the Episcopal Church. It's 1969. From that point on, Indigenous involvement in the Anglican Church began to decline. As I said, to bring forth what is within, that's the original meaning of education. And that's exactly what was not given in the American Indians to American Indians after colonization. Formal education for Indigenous people had nothing to do with them, their history, languages, cultures, and values. It was an imposition. For example, in theological education for years, when they taught the history of the church, they didn't reference what was happening in the Indigenous church, even though in Canada, for example, for 200 years, the church has been among Indigenous people. So we tried to change that. Indigenous education assumes two things. The four directions approach. It assumes there's 4 steps. Number 1, the love and commitment to community and a sense of belonging. If you're going to create a place where people can learn and that which is in them can mature and be drawn forth, you need to develop a sense of belonging. You need to maintain relationship with community. Number 2, there has to be the impartation of knowledge. Number 3, there has to be the practical application of knowledge. And number 4, sharing this knowledge with someone else. The Western University, they focus on number 2 and 3.
To the people in the world, our earth. So I'm getting carried away. I could see you standing there, Mike. Anyway, Hoa, thank you so much. Bless you. Now you could sing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Catherine Dawayu, Tsimsianum, Gispatwada, Wap Nistahuk, Gitslaso, Guns Gitsamkalam. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Catherine Martin. I come from the city of Terrace. I grew up in my father's community, Kitsamkalam, and learned all about my mother's culture in Kitsalas along the Skeena River. My question to you is about the application for the School of Theology.
Right.
I want to fill this out to attend the School of Theology. As you mentioned July 10th.
Yep.
It's May. So will I be able to make July 10th or July 17th for enrollment?
Yeah, if you call Hubert Barton, who works in my office, and we have another young lady by the name of Miriam, there's a number there. There's a number there. But I still think we have some financial resources too. We try to sponsor people if we can. So yeah, I think there's still time to get in. It'll be a challenge to find some housing, but we'll be creative. Hey, we're an Indigenous organization. We're used to doing things like, I remember, when we had Sacred Assembly in 1995, when Elijah Harper called Sacred Assembly in 1995, I remember a couple thousand of us showed up, and it was planned in a short period of time. And I remember Elijah Harper said, if Euro-Canadians were planning something, it would take like 2 years to plan something like this. We planned it in 3 months. So I think there's still time, yeah.
I wish to meet Elijah Harper one day. As a young child, I was placed in front of my grandmother to read the Bible to her every day. I don't know how many times I read that Bible to her, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. She was 104 when she passed.
Wow.
And went on her journey in the year 1977.
Wow.
I have a wealth of information to share with the young people that come towards me all the time to learn. How do you do this, Auntie? How do you say this, Auntie?
Right.
Auntie is very busy,
Yeah.
and it just warms my heart to see the young people coming towards me to ask questions and to pass out Bibles is up to 13 now to the young people. That warms my heart.
Yeah.
So yes, I wish to join the theology to continue to learn more and more about the Sacred Circle. This is my first time here. My heart to be amongst each and every one of you. And most importantly, to hear the laughter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. The application the deadline is now June 9th, and I filled out my application, and I'd be more than happy to help you fill yours out while I'm here. I'm not a genius at it, but I got my funding, so I could probably help you. Anyone who has a slim thought of teaching the word to our people our way, these courses are beautiful. Last year I took a course. Sheila, the man who taught us the courses where I talked about the birth of Jesus, his name? Adrian. He gave me the confidence to tell the story of creation our way. Ray taught us early Christianity, and no, we didn't fall asleep. He taught it in a way where we could identify our own stories. And when I went home, I compared our experience as Indigenous people with my family, and I compared it to what I learned there. Highly recommend it, people, and if you need help, I've got my laptop. I'm not a genius, but I can help you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Travis. I'm from the Diocese of Edmonton, and stand up. I'm being told, being bossed. The community, the inner city community that I have, is beautiful, and social enterprise is a big part of engagement with the Indigenous communities, especially young people where I'm from. I heard this beautiful presentation from Pitching Our Tent. And there's talk about reparations and talk about finding new ways of doing resources. What part of the educational system, I don't know where we're supposed to learn some of these things. And I think, is there an economic component part that we need to figure out how to talk about resourcing in a new way? Talk about economic resourcing, because the Pitching Our Tent people had so many ideas that popped up, boom, 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 boom. I was like, let's talk about some of those ideas that they came out with, land management and economic resourcing, and using the land in a good way for not just one person, but for many people. But how do we start that conversation now economically? We're all spiritual people, but. And our traditions, our tobacco is our protocol from where I come from. And nothing against white people, but money is their protocol, right? And they have to, that's how they engage, and that's how the rest of the world engages. So how do we figure out ways in which we learn to live both those protocols, but economically, how do we become sustainable and manage? But we have to learn it. It's not gonna come from the sky. We have to actually learn it. So that's my question. How can the VST start those conversations?
Yep. So the things that we've done recently, number one, so we taught a course, Ethics of Water. We brought in Jeff Corntassel to teach a class on ethical management of water and the well-being of water. The land-based healing and wellness, these are practical things that people can do in their community to strengthen. I don't know if she's going to talk about food security, but things that the land already there to heal our people. As if you're doing a degree at the Vancouver School of Theology, we also have a certificate with the Sauder School of Business. So there's 6 modules. I think it's 6, it might be 5 or 6 modules that are aimed at management within. You could use them within, yes, you could use them within a parish, but it covers the financial aspects, those kinds of things that are sort of to start moving along that road. So that's the things that we're doing. If you wanted to do something on like home-based business, well, then basically you tell me, hey, we need to do this course on this, and then I would find someone to teach it with the qualifications. And then we try to fit it within a person's program. I was going to say we pride ourselves that we're incredibly flexible to be able to adjust to meet the needs of a community. Because when someone comes to study with us, they're coming for their whole community, that their community's behind them. We're not trying to take them out of their community, but we're trying to help strengthen the community by strengthening them. So that's kind of how I think about those things. But you're absolutely right, those are vital. And so I've been involved in some of those things over the years, and we can get involved again. Maybe we put on a conference specifically to address those things and bring in, he's passed on now, but Ed Wood, who is from St. Teresa's Point, he had 5 lumber brokerages across Canada. When I went to Winnipeg, I used to meet with him. And he'd tell me, he'd say the Western world thinks if you make a lot of money, you'll have good relationships. He used to meet with these investment bankers, and he made them call him, their elder. He said, I'm telling you, you have to have good relationships first, he said. That's what you need to have is good relationships. You'll make some money. That's just the way. There's laws about making money, but you have to have good relationships. So we try to bring these things together. So that's the best answer I can give. It's probably not a good one, but that's what I thought of. And of course, it's all about our culture. So, I don't know anything. My grandfather forbade my mom from speaking our language. I only know a few words, and I can tell the tone in people's voices, and I know when I'm in trouble. I know that much. But one of the good things we do is the first week, if you can, you want to come the first week, because on Wednesday night we have a salmon barbecue, which the West Coast people think it's pretty cool. But I remember when the Lakota people came, they weren't impressed with salmon. They said, we eat buffalo. We don't want to eat fish. So we make hamburgers too. But then at one point, we take an offering and we dance in, it's called, and we have a big drum and we play the big drum and we sing. And then people have to dance in and we call out their name. We call out their community. And then they dance in and they give a gift. And one of the only songs I know how to sing is, it's a grass dance song. Hey-ya, hey-ya, ya, ho-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, ya, ho-ya, hey-ya, hey-o, Yahweh-ha, Yahweh-ha, ho-ya, hey-ya, hey-o, Yahweh-ha, Yahweh-ha, ho-ya, we-ya, hey-o, we-ya, 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 Yahweh-ha, Yahweh-ha, ho-ya, we-ya, hey-o. So I hope you come this summer and we dance together. Amen. Ikose. One more question? Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you about Henry Budd College.
Yes.
Like we have
Yes.
We have where we can be. We have new technology there now.
Yes.
So that when we go to Henry Budd College,
Yes.
you could take a VST
Yes.
course.
Yes.
And I just wanted to let the Northerners know that, so that, and across Canada, because as long as you've got internet, you can be on one of those courses.
Yes.
And it's usually like Ray put some courses on through Henry Budd College as well, and our Henry Budd College is in DePaul, Manitoba.
Yep. And we're partners with, on the back page of the one pamphlet, it says our partners, Henry Budd College for Ministry, and we're also partners with the James City College, and most of our courses are offered. You can either take them in person or, yes, you can take them online. In fact, one year during, we learned through COVID that it's not the greatest way to learn, but you can do it. So one of our professors was actually in Indonesia and teaching during our summer school. So, but mostly the professors come to Vancouver. So thank you. And thank you.
I think it's always important to be able to speak about the way we do things. I have to laugh, especially about that conversation of how we introduce ourselves. We talk about our community, where we're from, and as I was told by my grandmother, who was always taught that, says that this way again, just as Ray said, so you don't date your cousin. So you're my cousin. Sick. We come to an end of a long day. I thank all of you so much for your participation. I thank those of you that were wise and smart enough to take a few hours and put, and just go back to your room and to rest up. And we know who you are. But you showed wisdom to the rest of us, because the rest of us, we came through, and you are troopers, all of you. So with that, I'm going to quickly ask that Murray and Carolyn, yes, okay, that we're going to sit back. And also, is Teresa still here? Donna's over there. Okay, and we're going to have a quick meeting before as soon as we release you. And yes. Uh-huh. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ruby. Happy birthday to you. This is what family does, and this is what community does. We never forget. What was your name? No, just kidding. Never forget, yeah. Okay, so with that, you smiled, you laughed today, we shared in prayer, we celebrated, we walked together a great journey. May God be with you through the night, and may you be blessed with a wonderful rest. Tomorrow we start again at 8 bells, where we have breakfast, and then tomorrow we're going to be starting back into the GBD, our talking circles, and trying to get into our spirits into the right place for the next big conversations. So again, God bless you. Have a wonderful night. Stay out of trouble. And Don. Orange Shirt Day. At the store. So have a good night, everyone. Have a good sleep. What's that?